Well, for more on this super business of American football, I spoke to Norman O'Reilly. Norman is a professor of business and a chair of sports administration at the Ohio University's College of Business. I began by asking how the NFL manages to generate so much revenue.
A lot of people give it a few reasons why. The first is the limited amount of content. So each team only plays 16 games in front of a huge audience, massive television audience. Each game has a lot more importance to it than other comparable properties like Major League Baseball, for example, or Premier League Soccer. Secondly, the NFL and football in general, American football, Canadian football is the same, has a very spectator culture. Very, very low participation rates in terms of people that have played it before, yet a huge number of spectators who watch. So more than 90% of people that regularly watch football never played. That's a really special dynamic, and that really speaks to its attraction, its stars, its celebrity. And finally, it's really the Super Bowl. And the NFL was out ahead of a lot of other leagues around the world in creating this mega event. This event that in North America is unrivaled in terms of the number of people it attracts. Like 2/3 approximately of North Americans will tune in or attend a Super Bowl party or go to a bar where it's playing or something this coming Sunday.
Now, by some estimates, the NFL's revenue could reach $14 billion this year. But in terms of global appeal, it still doesn't have the sort of reach as, say, the National Basketball Association. So in terms of room to grow and expand, how do you see the NFL developing and progressing globally?
This is a challenge that they're dealing with, and we look at it very, very closely. Clearly, the game doesn't have the same following as basketball or soccer/football or even ice hockey does around the world, and that's a big challenge. The NFL Europe efforts that they put in place a number of years ago that didn't work from a sustainability financial perspective, but certainly brought the game to Europe, have led many to believe that very soon we're going to see a full franchise in London. Now they're playing a few games. That's one thing. There's been talk of franchises in Mexico City and maybe going into Canada, et cetera. So that's kind of the first thing that they're very much looking at. But the other thing from a kind of a profitability perspective, because those are risks, is really building your brand and building your celebrity around the world. You think of a club like Manchester United or the New York Yankees, these super clubs that are known throughout the world, they don't necessarily play in those places. So something where the NFL and a lot of North American leagues are behind the Premier Leagues and teams like the Yankees are building fan clubs, fan followings, multilingual, multicultural kind of approaches to their fan bases, which is another way to really start to drive revenues.
Now, the NFL is not without its number of controversies. For example, we know about the health and concussion concerns with CTE. We have players taking the knee to protest police violence. And of course, politics is now playing a bigger role than ever, with President Trump weighing in on a number of issues with the NFL. How are all these issues impacting the bottom line?
Yeah, there's no question it's a major concern, and we've seen there's evidence of rating shifts. Now, that's hard to measure because right now there's a lot of people cutting their cable, so some of the ratings numbers, people are moving to streaming to consume a lot of their sport products, especially young people around the world. They're not buying traditional cable packages, and they're not necessarily being tracked in the numbers. So we don't know for sure, but there's evidence of at least a stabilizing in terms of the following. So that's a major concern. And part of that, to your point, is clearly these negative issues. You look at, and you can look at other sports. You look at the doping scandals in cycling and what's happening in gymnastics right now. These things clearly impact fandom, impact parents wanting their kids to participate in these sports or be parts of these sports. In the short term, you're kind of protected by long-term deals, sponsorship, television, merchandising. But we're seeing some evidence of some of these, particularly the political ones. Veterans, for example, have publicly expressed that they're no longer following the league, these kind of things. These are major issues to deal with. And the commissioner and the NFL has in some cases have not maybe responded as quickly as they should have. They're now much more proactive. Have they learned their lesson? Are they going to lose fans? That's what we're going to kind of see in the future.
And what is the NFL doing to really try and get ahead of and be proactive about addressing some of these concerns?
Well, if you take the violence against some of the players' wives and girlfriends, which has been a huge issue in recent years, the league has proactively launched its Pink campaign. They're actively spending a lot of dollars in supporting initiatives around gender and women, and try to encourage female fans, trying to make their venues safer, a little more family or couples friendly.
And we have seen some of these initiatives. We know that the NFL held its third Women's Summit today, and it also held a forum before the Pro Bowl, really trying to encourage more women to be in the NFL. How do you think perhaps either hiring more women or being more inclusive of women's opinions, how do you think that might help the NFL's bottom line?
One thing we do know, without a doubt, is it's not about quotas, it's not about numbers, it's about creating welcoming cultures and places and environments where people of whatever background, in this case we're talking about gender, are comfortable. So if you're a female reporter, you're comfortable being around the players and being in these situations, and you're welcomed and treated in a professional way, not a non-professional way, for lack of a better term. And so that's a long road.